The modern world has taught people to
Our
believe that
reliance on
healing must
complicated
always come
products
from
and
something
restrictive
complicated.
diets has become
Everywhere you look, there are
overwhelming.
powders, capsules, diets, expensive programs, and endless advice promising to repair the body faster than ever before. Most people now live surrounded by products designed to convince them that the human body is weak unless it constantly receives something new. Yet when you step away from all of that noise and look backward through history, one uncomfortable question begins to rise. If human beings truly needed thousands of modern solutions in order to survive, then how did earlier generations continue living through droughts, famine, long journeys, disease, and exhaustion with meals so simple that most people today would barely consider them important at all? Long before supermarkets existed, long before nutrition labels and scientific terminology appeared, ancient people were already learning through observation what kinds of foods strengthened the body and what kinds quietly harmed it. They did not possess laboratories or modern medicine, but they understood something many people have forgotten. The body responds best to foods that are steady, natural, gentle, and deeply familiar. In the biblical world, there were certain ingredients that appeared over and over again, not only during celebrations, but during moments of recovery, travel, hunger, weakness, and survival. One of those ingredients carried a soft sweetness unlike the harsh sweetness that fills modern processed food. It was not used for indulgence. It was used to sustain life. That sweetness was honey. Not the heavily refined syrup that floods grocery stores today, but raw honey gathered carefully, preserved naturally, and respected as something valuable. Ancient people did not pour it recklessly over everything they ate. They used it with intention. They combined it with grains, fruit, milk, and bread in ways that kept the body nourished without overwhelming it. And what is astonishing is that modern science is only now beginning to understand why many of those combinations work so well. Imagine a quiet morning in the hill country of ancient Judah. The air is still cool from the night before. A woman kneels beside a clay pot where barley has been simmering slowly over low heat. Nearby rests a pomegranate freshly opened, its dark red seeds glistening in the soft morning light like tiny gemstones. She adds warm goat milk into the barley until the porridge softens and thickens. Then she scatters pomegranate seeds across the surface and drizzles only a small amount of raw honey over the top. Nothing excessive, nothing artificial, no sugar crystals, no heavy cream, no processed flavors. At first glance, it seems like an ordinary meal, almost too simple to matter. Yet meals like this sustained entire families for generations. The Bible speaks about pomegranates with unusual importance. They appeared on the garments of priests. They were carved into sacred architecture. They traveled back from the Promised Land alongside enormous clusters of grapes as visible proof of abundance and blessing. Ancient people preserved symbols only when they carried meaning, and the pomegranate carried more than beauty. It carried nourishment. Today, scientists understand that pomegranates contain powerful polyphenol and antioxidant compounds that help calm inflammation and support the gut microbiome. But ancient people did not need scientific language to recognize how their bodies responded after eating them. They simply noticed that certain foods left them feeling lighter, calmer, and stronger. The same was true for barley. Unlike modern refined grains that move rapidly through the body and disappear almost immediately, barley released energy slowly. It kept working people sustained through long days in the fields under relentless heat. It nourished without shocking the body. Then there was goat milk, naturally gentler than many modern dairy products, easier to digest, softer on the stomach, especially after fermentation. And finally, honey tied everything together. Its sweetness softened the tartness of the fruit and the heaviness of the grain without turning the meal into something overwhelming. That combination reveals something important about the ancient world. Their meals were designed around rhythm instead of intensity. They did not try to force the body into rapid highs and crashes. They understood balance. Today, many people eat in ways that constantly confuse the body. Processed sugar floods the bloodstream. Artificial additives disrupt digestion. Meals arrive too quickly and disappear too quickly. Energy rises sharply and collapses just as fast. Then people search for another product to fix the exhaustion created by the previous one. Ancient people lived differently. They respected foods that could sustain life steadily over time. The pomegranate itself teaches a deeper lesson. To reach its sweetness, you must first break through a thick outer rind. Inside are chambers filled with hidden seeds. Healing often works the same way. It rarely happens loudly or instantly. Most of the time it begins quietly beneath the surface where nobody else can see it. A calmer stomach, more stable energy, less heaviness after meals, better rest during the night. Ancient people may not have called these things microbiome balance or inflammation reduction, but they understood the experience itself. And that understanding continued beyond fruit and grain. There is a brief verse in Isaiah that many people read without stopping long enough to notice its meaning. It speaks of butter and honey. At first it sounds insignificant, almost too ordinary to matter. Yet hidden inside those few words is an entire philosophy of nourishment. In the biblical world, milk was alive. It was not aggressively processed, sterilized, or stripped of its natural qualities. Goat milk sat quietly in clay jars where time transformed it. It thickened slowly into a cool fermented food rich with beneficial bacteria. Ancient people did not use the word probiotics, but they experienced their effects directly. Picture a traveler returning from a long journey beneath scorching heat. Dust covers his clothing. Exhaustion weighs heavily on his body. In a shaded stone house, someone places before him a bowl of thick fermented goat milk with a small stream of honey across the top. The food is cool, soothing, and alive. It does not burden the stomach. It calms it. The fermentation process made the milk easier to digest while introducing beneficial bacteria that supported the gut. Honey added gentle sweetness along with enzymes and natural antibacterial properties. Together, they created something remarkably balanced. Modern science now connects fermented dairy foods with improved gut health, microbiome diversity, and reduced inflammation. Yet once again, ancient people already knew something mattered long before scientific language appeared. They trusted what the body consistently accepted. That is the difference between ancient nourishment and modern consumption. Today, people often eat for stimulation. Ancient people ate for endurance. They understood that the digestive system does not respond well to constant extremes. It prefers rhythm, familiarity, and steadiness. Fermented milk with honey fit perfectly into that rhythm. Even the process of preparing it resisted hurry. The milk had to rest. The fermentation required patience. Honey was added carefully, not recklessly. The entire meal moved according to natural timing instead of human impatience. Perhaps that is why it worked so well. The human body does not thrive under chaos. It thrives under balance. And maybe that is the greatest lesson hidden inside these ancient foods. Healing is not always found in the strongest thing. Sometimes it is found in the gentlest thing repeated consistently over time. Long before the modern world complicated everything, people survived through foods simple enough for the body to understand. And among those foods, honey remained one of the most trusted gifts of all. There was a morning in the wilderness when the ground appeared empty except for sand, stone, and silence. The people had traveled far from everything familiar. Their supplies were disappearing. Fear was beginning to settle into their hearts because the desert gives nothing freely. The heat consumes strength during the day while the cold strips warmth away at night. Hunger becomes more than discomfort in a place like that. It becomes a constant pressure that slowly breaks the mind. Then something strange appeared across the earth. A thin layer rested upon the ground like dew after sunrise. Small pieces covered the wilderness in silence. Nobody understood what it was. Nobody had planted it. Nobody had baked it. Yet it became the food that sustained an entire nation for years. Scripture called it manna, and one detail about it has echoed across centuries. It tasted like wafers made with honey. That single detail reveals more than most people realize. The sweetness connected to manna was not aggressive or overwhelming. It was gentle enough to sustain people daily without exhausting them. In a barren wilderness where survival depended completely upon consistency, the food provided each morning carried softness instead of harshness. Ancient people may not have understood blood sugar or metabolism, but they understood endurance. They recognized which foods left the body capable of continuing forward and which foods created weakness afterward. There was also another unusual rule connected to manna. The people could not hoard it. They were instructed to gather only enough for the day because anything stored carelessly spoiled by morning. That command reveals something deeply important about human nature. The body was never designed for endless excess. Modern life teaches people to consume constantly out of fear, emotion, boredom, or desire. But manna taught dependence on rhythm rather than abundance. Enough for today. Enough to continue walking. Enough to sustain life without drowning it in excess. When modern people think about sweetness, they often think about processed sugar engineered for addiction. But honey in the ancient world behaved differently. Raw honey carried enzymes, trace nutrients, and natural compounds that interacted gently with the body rather than violently overwhelming it. Even now, researchers continue studying the antibacterial and anti-inflammatory properties found in raw honey. Certain varieties support beneficial bacteria within the digestive system while helping limit harmful microbial growth. The sweetness ancient people trusted was connected to nourishment, not chaos. Imagine a father in the wilderness gathering manna beside his children before sunrise. The air is cold. Sand shifts beneath their feet. Each family gathers enough to survive another day. There is no luxury in the moment, no extravagance. Yet the food before them becomes proof that human beings can continue living through unimaginable difficulty when given something simple and sufficient. Perhaps that is what modern people struggle to understand. The body often heals through consistency rather than intensity. This same principle appeared again in another biblical moment beneath the great trees of Mamre when Abraham welcomed 3 strangers to rest beside his tent. He did not present them with elaborate food designed for spectacle. Instead, he served what the ancient world trusted most: milk, butter, simple nourishment prepared with care. Picture the scene carefully. The desert wind moves softly across the open entrance of the tent. The travelers remove the dust of the road from their feet. Their bodies carry exhaustion from long hours beneath relentless heat. Abraham brings fermented milk cooled inside clay vessels where natural bacteria had slowly transformed it into something thick and soothing. Beside it rests honey, not poured excessively, only enough to soften the tartness and provide gentle energy. The beauty of ancient hospitality was never found in excess. It was found in understanding what the body truly needed. After long travel beneath extreme heat, the body does not need heavy stimulation. It needs restoration. Fermented goat milk provided beneficial bacteria capable of supporting digestion and calming the stomach. Honey added natural sweetness without burdening the body. Together, they formed a meal remarkably intelligent despite its simplicity. Today, countless products products promise digestive health, while many people unknowingly damage their systems through constant overconsumption of processed foods. Ancient people moved differently. Their meals aligned with the natural pace of life itself. Milk fermented slowly. Honey remained raw. Grain stayed whole. Fruit stayed recognizable. Nothing was stripped apart and rebuilt artificially. And because of that, the body recognized those foods immediately. Modern science increasingly confirms what ancient people already sensed through daily living. Fermented foods can support microbial diversity inside the gut. Stable digestion influences energy, mood, inflammation, and even immune function. Yet the biblical world understood these effects without needing laboratories. They simply observed reality. Some foods burdened the body. Some foods restored it. There is something deeply humbling about that realization. Human beings have advanced technologically beyond anything ancient people could imagine, yet many have never felt more exhausted, inflamed, anxious, or disconnected from their own bodies. The modern world offers endless convenience while simultaneously producing widespread digestive disorders, unstable energy, and chronic fatigue. Perhaps part of the answer is hidden inside these ancient rhythms. Simple foods, gentle preparation, steady nourishment, no extremes. Even honey itself represented something larger than sweetness. In Scripture, the Promised Land was repeatedly described as flowing with milk and honey. That phrase was never simply about flavor. It symbolized abundance capable of sustaining life. Milk represented nourishment. Honey represented sweetness without destruction. Together, they described balance. And balance is precisely what modern life often destroys. People push themselves constantly. They eat quickly, sleep poorly, chase stimulation, flood the body with chemicals and artificial ingredients. Then they wonder why exhaustion follows them everywhere. Ancient nourishment moved at a slower pace because human biology itself moves at a slower pace. The gut cannot be bullied into health. The body cannot be screamed into healing. Real restoration often begins quietly through repeated acts of gentleness. A bowl of fermented milk, a small amount of honey, a whole grain cooked patiently, a fruit eaten in its natural form. The ancient world trusted those things because generation after generation watched them sustain life. And perhaps the human body still longs for that simplicity even now. Far from crowded cities and royal palaces, there was once a man lying near the roadside with almost no strength remaining inside him. His body had been pushed beyond exhaustion. He had not eaten for days. The desert heat had stripped moisture from his skin, while hunger slowly emptied him from within. When people finally found him, he was barely alive. Then they gave him something very simple: pressed figs, raisins, food small enough to fit in the hand. Scripture says that after he ate, his spirit returned to him. That sentence contains extraordinary wisdom. When the body reaches severe exhaustion, it cannot handle heavy, complicated meals. Digestion itself becomes weak. Large amounts of rich food may actually worsen the condition because the system no longer has the strength required to process them. Ancient people understood this through observation. They reached for foods the body could absorb quickly and gently. Figs were perfect for moments like that. Picture a ripe fig beneath the intense sun of the ancient Near East. Its flesh is soft, naturally sweet, filled with fiber and minerals. When dried and pressed into cakes, the fruit became portable nourishment capable of lasting through long journeys. Travelers carried them across difficult terrain because they provided energy without requiring preparation. And when combined with raw honey, their restorative power increased even more. Modern science now understands that figs contain soluble fiber capable of supporting digestion and feeding beneficial bacteria within the gut. Honey contributes natural enzymes and antibacterial compounds while providing easily accessible energy. But none of those scientific explanations mattered to the exhausted man beside the road. What mattered was that his body recognized the food immediately. It restored strength without overwhelming him. That distinction matters more than most people realize. Many modern foods provide stimulation without true nourishment. They create sudden bursts of energy followed by collapse. Ancient nourishment behaved differently. It sustained the body instead of attacking it. Imagine sitting beneath the shade of a tree after walking for hours through dry land. Dust coats your sandals. Your breathing remains heavy from the journey. Someone hands you softened figs mixed lightly with honey. The sweetness arrives slowly. The stomach receives it gently. Energy begins returning without violence. That is the rhythm ancient people trusted. The body does not always need intensity. Often it needs compatibility. This same understanding appears again in the story of Ruth. She worked quietly in the barley fields gathering leftovers after harvest. Her life was not luxurious. She survived through simple food earned through labor and humility. Yet hidden inside that ordinary setting is another powerful lesson about nourishment. Barley was one of the most common grains in the biblical world. Not because it was fashionable, because it endured. Whole barley moved slowly through the body. It provided stable energy capable of sustaining physical labor through long, exhausting days. Unlike refined grains that disappear rapidly after consumption, barley stayed with the body longer. Now picture Ruth sitting at the edge of the field during rest. Beside her rests coarse barley bread still carrying the smoky scent of fire and grain. The bread is firm and dense compared to modern white bread. It demands slower eating. Then a little honey softens its roughness. Not enough to turn it into dessert, only enough to balance it. That combination reveals something important. Ancient meals were rarely designed for entertainment. They were designed for function. Barley contained fiber that nourished beneficial bacteria inside the digestive system. Honey provided gentle sweetness and additional support through natural compounds. Together, they created steady nourishment capable of maintaining endurance without overwhelming the body. Modern science identifies soluble fibers such as beta-glucans within barley as powerful supporters of digestive health and metabolic stability. Yet Ruth and countless others never needed those terms. They only needed the experience itself. They knew certain foods allowed people to continue working without crashing into exhaustion. And perhaps that is exactly what many modern people have lost: the ability to recognize how food truly affects them. Today, countless meals are engineered around craving rather than nourishment. The goal is immediate pleasure. Ancient nourishment focused on long-term sustainability. That difference changes everything. Even bread itself carried deep meaning in Scripture because it represented daily sustenance. People prayed for daily bread because bread symbolized life continuing one day at a time. Not excess, enough. And when honey entered those meals, it was used carefully. Honey was respected. Its sweetness complemented nourishment rather than replacing it. Modern diets often separate pleasure from nourishment. Ancient meals joined them together gently. A little sweetness, a little grain, a little milk, a little fruit, everything balanced. Perhaps that is why these foods appear repeatedly throughout biblical history. Not because ancient people lacked creativity, but because they discovered through generations of experience what human beings could consistently survive upon. The digestive system thrives under predictability and rhythm. Constant extremes create stress within the body. Ancient nourishment reduced that stress. Imagine the fields during harvest season. The afternoon sun begins lowering across the land. Workers wipe sweat from their faces. Their muscles ache from labor. Nearby, someone prepares a simple bowl of softened barley drizzled with honey. Nothing glamorous, nothing designed for admiration. Yet after eating, they continue. That ability to continue mattered more than excitement. Modern culture celebrates intensity. Ancient wisdom celebrated endurance. And endurance is built slowly through repeated nourishment the body can trust. Even now, many people secretly long for that simplicity without realizing it. Beneath all the complicated diets and expensive supplements, there remains a deeper hunger. A hunger for steadiness. A hunger for calm. A hunger for foods that feel understandable again. Perhaps that longing exists because the human body remembers rhythms older than modern civilization itself. Whole grains, natural fermentation, fruit, raw honey. Simple combinations repeated patiently over time. The ancient world survived through those rhythms. And maybe the body still recognizes them today. There was a cold morning beside the water when the disciples returned from a night of failure. The lake remained covered in mist while exhaustion settled heavily upon them. They had worked through darkness and caught nothing. Hunger mixed with disappointment until silence filled the boat. Then they saw a fire burning near the shore. Bread waited beside it. Fish rested above glowing coals. No complicated speech greeted them. No grand display. Only food already prepared for weary men who needed strength. That moment reveals something beautiful about biblical nourishment. After confusion and exhaustion, the answer waiting on the shore was simplicity. Bread, fish, warmth. And in the ancient world, bread often carried traces of honey. Not enough to create luxury. Only enough to soften the roughness of grain and make the food easier to receive. Picture the bread itself. Flat and dense from whole grain flour ground slowly between stones. The surface bears dark marks from hot rock or open flame. It smells of earth, smoke, and grain instead of preservatives and artificial sweetness. When honey touches the surface, it sinks gently into the bread rather than overwhelming it. That small detail matters. Ancient people used sweetness carefully because food existed to support life rather than stimulate endless craving. Whole grain bread released energy gradually. The body processed it steadily instead of experiencing violent rises and crashes. Honey added softness, natural sugars, and beneficial compounds without stripping balance away. Modern nutrition science now understands that minimally processed whole grains and natural sweeteners behave very differently inside the body compared to heavily refined foods. Yet the biblical world discovered this truth through daily survival. People who labored physically every day could not afford foods that destroyed their energy. They depended on stability. Perhaps that is why simple meals appear so often throughout Scripture. Human beings are strongest when life itself remains grounded. Today, many people feel trapped inside constant exhaustion despite having access to endless convenience. They eat quickly while distracted. Their meals come packaged, processed, engineered for stimulation. The body receives more calories than ever while often remaining deeply undernourished. Ancient meals rarely created that conflict. Food still looked alive. Grains remained recognizable. Milk fermented naturally. Fruit carried its own structure. Honey came directly from the hive. Nothing was excessively altered. The human body recognized those foods immediately because they existed close to their original form. Now imagine sitting beside that fire after a difficult night. The warmth reaches your hands while whole grain bread drizzled lightly with honey rests before you. You eat slowly because there is no reason to rush. The body receives nourishment calmly. This is what many ancient meals accomplished. They reduced stress instead of adding to it. The digestive system responds powerfully to calm conditions. Chronic stress alters digestion, inflammation, and even the balance of bacteria within the gut. Ancient life certainly contained hardship, but meals themselves often carried rhythm and simplicity capable of grounding the body. That rhythm extended beyond bread. Honey appeared repeatedly because it symbolized abundance connected to nature rather than industry. Bees gathered sweetness patiently from countless flowers. Honey required time, balance, and cooperation with the natural world. Perhaps that is another reason Scripture describes the Promised Land as flowing with milk and honey. It represented harmony, a place where nourishment existed naturally rather than artificially. Today, people often search desperately for the next solution while ignoring the foundational habits capable of restoring balance slowly over time. Better sleep, slower meals, whole foods, natural fermentation, gentle nourishment. The modern world frequently dismisses such things because they appear too ordinary. Yet the human body has always depended upon ordinary rhythms. Even inflammation itself often grows quietly through years of stress, overconsumption, processed ingredients, unstable energy, and poor digestion. Ancient meals countered many of those pressures naturally because they moved more slowly and demanded patience. Nothing happened instantly. Barley required cooking. Milk required fermentation. Bread required grinding and baking. Honey required gathering. Perhaps people themselves became calmer because nourishment itself followed a calmer rhythm. Imagine a child in the ancient world waking before sunrise. The smell of grain cooking drifts through a small stone house. Nearby, a clay jar holds fermented milk cooled overnight. Fruit rests in woven baskets. Honey glows golden in morning light. That child grows up eating foods recognizable by the body generation after generation. No artificial dyes. No chemical flavorings. No endless overstimulation. Only simple nourishment repeated consistently. The modern world often treats simplicity as weakness. Ancient wisdom understood simplicity as strength. Because what truly sustains human life rarely arrives in dramatic form. It arrives quietly. A bowl shared after labor. Bread beside a fire. Milk cooled in clay. Honey used carefully. Fruit gathered by hand. Healing frequently begins there. Not through spectacle, through steadiness. And maybe that is why these biblical foods continue capturing attention thousands of years later. Deep down, people recognize something inside them. The body was never meant to live in constant chaos. It longs for rhythm. It longs for nourishment gentle enough to trust. It longs for balance. The ancient world understood that balance far more clearly than many people realize. When you study the foods that appear repeatedly throughout biblical history, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. None of them were designed to impress anyone. They were simple enough to disappear into ordinary life. Yet generation after generation preserved them because human beings continued surviving through them. That is what made ancient nourishment powerful. It worked quietly. Imagine a small village preparing for evening after a long day beneath the sun. Smoke rises slowly from cooking fires. Children carry water jars through narrow paths between stone homes. Someone crushes grain into flour while another stirs barley over low heat. Nearby, a clay bowl holds figs soaking softly beside fresh bread and fermented milk. No one there thinks about antioxidants or probiotics. They simply know these foods sustain life. Modern people often separate eating from wisdom. Meals become entertainment, distraction, or emotional escape. Ancient people rarely had that luxury. Food carried consequences because survival itself depended upon it. If something consistently weakened the body, it disappeared. If something sustained strength, it remained. That process shaped biblical nourishment across centuries. Honey survived because it served more than taste. It preserved food naturally. It provided stable sweetness. It carried antibacterial qualities. It complemented grain, milk, and fruit without overwhelming them. Most importantly, it worked in harmony with other